Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Studio Live today, where we will be checking this out, the Nembrini NA808 Overdrive plugin for the very first time, taking a wee bit of a first look at this one. It is an overdrive pedal. It's an AUV3 plugin. It's a standalone app. You can use it with inter-app audio. It kind of is the whole package here. And yeah, if you, like me, remember the old guitar pedals back in the day, for me it was in the 90s, but you might have been in the 80s or the 70s even. Guitar pedals like this one in the flesh have been around for a long time. And whilst I was more of a Boss DS1 kind of guy, the overdrive pedal definitely does a good thing. Realized I had some reverb on there, just a little bit of reverb to get you started for the morning. So we'll go through and we'll show you this one and take a bit of a listen. You can already hear it there, and straight out of the gate, it's sounding cool, and I've done nothing to it, as you can see there. The settings are straight up the middle, and we'll talk about it, and we'll take a look at what we can do with the drive, the tone, and the level. Very simple. I love me a simple plugin. It makes my life good and happy. So let's dive in here and take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Hello to the folks who are here live. I'll jump in and say good day to you in a moment, and we'll get started with the review. So, who are Nembrini Audio? Well, we'll turn the monitoring off there. Otherwise, every time I move my hand, we're going to get some guitar sound. So, who are Nembrini Audio? Well, Andreas Nembrini has been doing audio stuff for a very long time, and he's gotten into not only the iOS game, but also the VST and the AU plugin game. So, whether you're on an iPhone or an iPad using AUV3 plugins, or you're on a desktop DAW, there's going to be some Nembrini stuff that you're going to be able to use, and focusing in on some very cool sounds for your axe, for your guitar, for your Gitbox. That's all the names there are. So this one in particular is free, along with a lot of the other plugins. So I've showed these on the channel before. You can check the description if you want to check these out in some more detail. But if we come in here to the plugins and in the EQ, and we check out the different ones we have here under audio unit extensions, and I will show you how to do this in a moment. If you're new to the whole world of GarageBand, then we'll come on down here. So there is this one. There's the Nembrini Audio NA808 pedal. You can see here I've got the Nembrini Audio 8180 installed on here, which is another amp sim that they have. We've got all these analog racks. So a lot of these are free. Things like the noise gate is free. I think the chorus is free. The guitar EQ may be free even. So there's a lot of these you can buy. If you buy them, they're only about $2 as well. So you can definitely do that. We've got the Crunk there, the PSA 1000 Junior, the Soundmaster. There's a heap of Nembrini goodness that you can actually use, and what we'll do in this one, we'll layer up a couple of the free sounds so that we can actually see, even if you don't want to spend a cent, you're going to be able to get yourself some cool sounds with Nembrini Audio. So I've cut my top of my head off here so you can see a little bit of my guitar as we play, in case you're wondering about this one. So what we can do with this, we can just add it straight to a track. So what we have here at the moment, if we come back out here, we will turn back on monitoring, and my guitar, without any plugins or anything, is going to sound a little dry, right? Not really much going on there. We'll just turn the volume up so that we can hear it a little bit better. Yeah, so you're not going to really just play a guitar sound like that. Let's go back to the start, because what we'll need to do is, so we've got this drum track, we've got Anders rocking a beat here. Yeah, Anders. Doing your thing. So if we wanted to add this as a straight plugin with nothing else, we just tap the plus button, we come in here to our more sounds. Now you want it to be, you don't want to put a guitar sound on here. We can, but you generally just want fun and clean. So we're going to go fun and clean, and here is our clean track. We can then go to our little mixer icon here in the top left, go to plugins and EQ, and hit the edit button. Now, the first thing I do is just get rid of this effect EQ. This is just this tone knob. I don't ever use it. I don't ever need it. If I want to add EQ, I'll use the visual EQ. And then we can layer up. So you can see we've got 4 slots here. So what we'll do first is hear what this sounds like with just the plugin itself. So you can do this. You can use an amp sim and then your pedals, just like you would in real life, IRL, or you can just experiment with just putting the pedal on by itself. Now we'll change this to input 2, because that's where my guitar happens to be, and we'll also need to turn monitoring on. And there you go, out of the gate, we have dropped our pick. One moment, please. The beauty of live. We would edit that out in post, but we don't have a post. So now we've got that sound. So I'm on the end pickup there, but if we bring it back to the bridge pickup, so we get that nice overdriven tone. Now, what controls do we have in here? Well, we can hit the plugins button there, plugins and EQ, go back to the NA808. So we have a drive knob. So if we drive the knob, this is going to be hard to demonstrate one-handed, but if we turn the drive down, we get less overdrive sound. So if you turn that all the way down, you get more of a subtle tone coming through. Let's turn the drive knob up. Let's turn it to 11. When you're starting with a new plugin, this is what I like to do. I just turn everything as far up and as far down as it goes so I can see what it does. So there's that fuzz. You can hear in the background now. Yeah, you can hear more of that hum coming through. So we could use the Nembrini noise gate if we wanted to remove some of that. But you can hear with the drive up. You get that fuzzy tone, so you're going to get those big square waveforms with the drive up. Let's see if we got, double tap on your Nembrini audio. They make sure that your interface is super simple here. So if you double tap on any of these, they'll go right back to 0. The tone dial here, once again, here's our regular tone. Let's turn the tone down. If the tone goes down, more of a subtle kind of sound. If we boost our tone, bring it all the way around now. That'd be nice for a lead part. So you can boost up your tone there if you want a little bit more definition in your tone. And then, of course, we got the level. So this is where we can balance it all out. So at the moment, at a default level, it's going to... As we bring the level down, the volume goes away, yeah? And if we bring the level up, block your ears, everyone. Now, the beauty of this, and why do you need all these different knobs? Well, the beauty is what you can do. If you want to overdrive it, you want to get a really fuzzy or crunchy tone, let's just say we want super fuzz. So we can drive this up. We can drive the drive. We can drive up the tone a little. But then what's going to happen is your level's going to get too loud, right? So what you can do is then use your level to bring down your overall gain coming out of there. So you still get that fuzzy tone, but it's not going to overpower you, yeah? Or if you want it to overpower you, you can make it overpower you. So yeah, very cool. Never enough knobs, says Jade here in the chat. Absolutely, never enough knobs. Let's continue. How does it sound with GarageBand guitars since I have no real ones with me? Yeah, that's a good question. Very good question. We will try that. Remind me of that before we finish up. And we'll get back to that. Hang on, let's just turn this monitoring off. You don't need to hear that hum in the background. Tom Rochelle says, it's good to layer that kind of tone with heavier distortion and heavy music. Gives the guitars more definition. Yeah, you can create a wall of guitar sounds by playing around with different tones here as well. Let's lay down a track, shall we? I've no idea what I'm going to play here. I can't even remember what Anders is doing, but we'll drive this up. We'll bring the level down a little bit, and we'll go with that same tone that we had there. Put our monitoring back on, so we'll just make sure that we're going to work. We'll go with something along those lines. So let's hit the record button. We'll go back to the start of the track. We'll hit record, and we'll see what we can pull together here. Cool. That'll do us. So yeah, nice, easy to dial in a nice tone. And I know the criticism here is usually, yeah, look, Pete, distorted tones in AUV3 and in GarageBand are a dime a dozen. But this one just seems to sound better. I know, you might say, it's the same as everything else. I like it. It's free. It's worth experimenting with, right? Even if you don't use it all the time, have it in your arsenal, because why not? Why not have something free that you can throw on there and try out? So let's listen to these back here now. So I'm a sucker for that really fuzzy tone, but what if we want a tone that's a little bit more subtle? So we'll try a bit of a lead part here now, shall we? So if we duplicate that track out, tap it, duplicate it, and again, we'll come in here, we'll go turn the monitoring on, and come in here to the amp sim. This time, let's drive it down a little bit more. Go with something a little bit more subtle, but we'll turn the level up so we can kind of balance it out here. What sort of tone are we going to get here? All right, let's just try something with this one. So if we go back to the start of the track and hit record, 2, 3, 4. So I'm overloading the sound a little bit there. You can see my metering's going a bit insane. When you start adding distorted guitars and you've got someone like Anders on drums, you can very quickly kind of overdo things. So we'll drive it all down a little bit. But yeah, I kind of like that tone. Let's come back over here. You get more of a bluesy kind of sound. But here's the thing. Let's say that we want to add a little bit more to this, because you can just add the plugin by itself, but you probably wouldn't play a pedal without an amp, right? So let's experiment a bit here. Let's grab the Nembrini Crunk amp sim. Now what we want to do is, first of all, we want to bring this down, because you want the sound. Actually, no, other way around. Good one, Pete. But you can experiment with this. So we're going to go through the pedal and then into the amp. So you can actually change the order of things. So if you wanted to go through a bunch of pedals, you could change the order of your pedals and then go into your amp. But say we have the pedal at the top here. We'll hit the plus button here, and we will go to audio unit extensions. Let's come on down. Let's add in the Crunk V2. Oh, you can hear it's, yeah, you can hear that the Crunk has really kicked in there. Let's just turn that monitoring off there for a moment. So if we come in here to the Crunk, we're on the default Crunk settings here. We can go to the factory presets here. Let's go with a clean sound to start with, the clean A here on the Crunk. And we'll come back. Now we can take a listen with just the Crunk sound. This little lead guitar part that I played here is going to sound a little bit like this. So you can start hearing that more of that guitar tone coming in there, right? As opposed to if we just had the original, it was just sounding like this. Crunking it up. So you instantly get a lot more gain, but you get more of that guitar amp tone in there. Let's now add in the 808 in front of this, and now we've got a pedal going into an amp, and this is what's cool about layering up your sounds here. If we hit play. Cool, right? So the beauty part here is, though, that we've got complete control over this post-recording. So we can record through this. So if we wanted to redo this lead part, and I kind of do because it kind of sucked, we can come out here. If we turn our monitoring back on, you can hear there that we can play along with this. So let's hit the record and we'll play through this, and then we can adjust the tone afterwards. Let's do it. Wow, I wanted to make it better and I made it worse. Oh, I do like that. I like it when you're playing on a guitar and you go down the neck and it gives that. Turn the monitoring off there. So the beautiful part here is, as I just said, we can completely change up this tone now. So if we solo this one, we'll play the second half because it was slightly better than the first. So what we can do, we can try it without the crunk amp. So if we go back to just the NA808, turn the amp back on. And then, of course, we can come in here and dial in whatever amp settings we want. So we're like, oh, okay, maybe a little bit too much treble and bass. We'll bring that down a little bit. We don't want any presence in there. We can start adjusting the output. You can customize your tone. Or we want to crunch it all up. We can come into our factory presets and turn on a crunch. And then we come back to here and... kind of like that sound, yeah? Excuse me. So, yeah, the sky's the limit here because you can play in your parts. You can then come in here and adjust all of these. And again, want to add some more tones? No problem. We can add some more pedals here, either after the amp, which doesn't really make much sense, or we can do it before the amp. So if we hit the plus button here, let's say we want a little of, what's another cool effect that we should put on here? Maybe we want the flanger, right? The analog rack flanger. And again, we'll edit so we can bring it up here. Now, I'd probably go flanger into overdrive into amp. Is that the way you'd go? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Do you crunch it all up and then go through other pedals, or do you go through other pedals and then hit your distortion at the end of the chain? I kind of vary. So let's take a listen to this lead part with the flange on. That's kind of a cool tone now. I'm liking that. You got it's kind of a harsh tone, but it's for a lead tone. If we layer it in here with what we played on the rhythm. And there you go. And I'm pretty sure that all three of these plugins, the flanger may be $2, but I'm pretty sure all the other plugins, well, definitely the 808 and the Crunk V2 are for free. So to get yourself some guitar tones for free, I think that's pretty cool. Now, I did have a request from someone, which was to try it out with the guitar. And this is a cool thing. You can not only use any of these plugins, any of these effects, any of these amps with your real guitar, as I've done here. You can plug in your guitar to your interface and record. But if you don't have a guitar or you're not a guitar player, no problem. You can actually use the GarageBand guitar. Or the bass. In fact, Jade said, what about on bass? So maybe we'll try a little bass afterwards as well. What am I looking for? Guitar. I've probably gone past it. There we go. So if we come in here, I'd probably go the classic clean guitar to start with when you're doing something like this. And we'll go to our notes and... we'll play something very simple in here just so that it matches what we've done here. So it's really hard to lean over and play on the screen now with a guitar in my hand. I should probably put the guitar down, but I never like to put a guitar down. Let's hit record. 2, 3, 4. Right, you couldn't really hear any of what I was actually playing over my screaming Waylon guitars. Not my Waylon Smithers guitars, but so I was playing this. So, I mean, your GarageBand guitars leave a lot to be desired. But here's the cool thing. You can actually, because we've got AUV3 now, you used to have to, if you wanted to use the GarageBand amp sims, you'd have to merge this down and then throw it over onto a guitar amp track. What we can do here now, though, is we can do exactly what we just did on this track. So we go to edit. We've only got 2 slots here, so you're going to have to be a little bit more lenient with what you use. But say we want to add in the 808, we can do exactly that. Come on down here. The 808's on there now. Let's listen to it by default. Definitely better, but yeah, the tone's still not quite there. What if we add the crunk to this as well? So we'll go plus again, we'll go audio unit extensions. Let's chuck the Nembrini crunk on here, and we'll come here and we'll clean it up first of all. So we'll give it the clean. Let's go clean B this time and play these together. Yeah, so it's still like quite harsh there. So what you'd probably want to do is come down here and give it a dip in the treble because it's sounding way too bright and sort of, crispy at the top end. So if we turn that down. So, I mean, it's not great, right? But that's kind of more GarageBand's guitar's fault as opposed to the Nembrini plugin. And at least it sounds better than... Yeah, so you are getting an improvement upon that original sound. Now, Jade mentioned that maybe adding it to a bass guitar might sound cool. Now, I don't have a bass guitar here to plug in, but let's just grab the GarageBand bass, shall we? We'll grab something like the, maybe the picked bass might be the best one here. So we'll go to our notes. Let's play something like that, shall we? 3, 4. Didn't do that very well. We'll come back here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That will do for a bit of a test run, won't it? Let's come back out of there. Now we'll get rid of this guitar, it's sounding cruddy, and we'll mute that one out, bring this one back in. So we'll turn everything else down and then bring in this bass sound. Timing's a little bit suspect there. But yeah, let's bring this on. And again, we can just add this to our bass. Now, this time we are using it on an actual guitar sound, but no problem. We've already got the sort of affected sound of the guitar. We've got 4 slots here, though. We can add it on in. Let's come in here, throw the NA808 on this sucker, and see what it sounds like. We'll solo it, see what it sounds like out of the box. Yeah, so it's not bad. You'd probably want, if you wanted to really crunch this up, you'd probably want to come over here and put the crunk back on as well. And maybe even bring the crunk here and put the crunchy crunk. And of course you can dial these in, but I'm just using presets to make it a bit simpler here for now. And we play that. Oh. Okay, that's maybe a little bit too much. We've got a little bit next level there. Well, let's bring it back to clean because that was a bit insane. But if we bring this back in with our track. So you can hear there that it's very easy to kind of overdo it, and everything ends up sounding a little bit too over-processed. So you do have to tweak that. But again, because you've got the ability to change your drive and your tone, we could drive, what I'll probably do with that is actually drive it down a little bit on that bass sound, but bring the level back up again. In fact, let's just try that real quick to see if that's going to improve things. Yeah, that's better. I mean, you're hearing it through my mixer, then through YouTube's compression, so it's going to sound a little bit different anyway. But yeah, it is so cool that we have these available, that we have the ability to plug in when we're using GarageBand. And this is, of course, available to use in Audio Pro or Cubasis 3, as well as a standalone app. Now, why you'd use it with a standalone app, I don't know. If you just wanted this plug-in and you were playing guitar through it, but what you'd more likely do is play it through GarageBand and then put your monitoring on. If you were just jamming on some chords, then you'd just throw it on here and you'd set yourself up a chain a little bit like this one. And again, I really liked this one, actually. This is my favorite one that we did here, where we have the flange going into the 808, going into the crunk like this. Yeah, and again, you probably need to, again, tame a little bit of that top end with some EQ there, because, again, I overdo things and get things a little bit crunchy. Alrighty. Andy said it's sounding like his high school band. Yeah, I know. There's something about that sort of tone, isn't there, where it's just like everyone's going ding, 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 like slightly out of time, like not really out of time, like not crazy noticeable out of time, but you know that's that out of time that's slightly out of time. Yeah, very very high school band, isn't it? Alrighty, let's jump over here. I'll see if anyone has any other questions before we finish off here, and then we'll be done for this test, and I'll let you know what I think. So Timothy says, I like the amp sim stuff, but I just like using my vintage Line 6 Podbean and the headphone out of my Yamaha THR10. I can't deal with the latency. Yeah, like, I haven't found much latency. I use the Steinberg UI22C. I have the other guitar interface, which I can't remember the name of it now, but they were kind enough to send it to me, that I'll be checking out again this month, that does a really good job as well. But yeah, I haven't noticed a whole heap of latency recently. So yeah, I think it's all right. There you go. Jade Star says the Nembrini Flanger is currently $3.99. So some of the other analog rack gear, if you search Nembrini, they've always got various specials and half-price deals and some free plugins going on. So watch Jade's show, How to App, and she'll always keep you updated with what you need. It does need more cowbell indeed. Yes, it seems to sit nicely with the flanger. When you start layering up sounds, it definitely works well. Scott Grice says, I used crunk on a vocal track. Sounded like it was coming through an old phone speaker. That is a very cool idea, and that's a cool thing as well. Like, don't think that you're limited to guitars. You can, of course, use these on any other track, whether you've got piano tracks or vocal tracks or, I don't know, a harmonica track, whatever you like. If you want a little bit of that live sound, or you want to sound like an old phone speaker, do as Scott says here and throw it on your vocal track. I love putting a distortion pedal. In fact, I might even try using this overdrive. I use a lot of drive on my vocals. Should we try a quick test of this? Let's just try a quick test. I'll try and find a song where I've got some vocals going on. If we go to my completed folder, what are we going to do? Let's jump into Imagination, because this has a vocal that might do with some little bit of roughing up. So if we come here, like here's the lead vocals for this song. I have to make sure I undo anything I do here. So it sounds like this. Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under. So over here in my plugins and EQ, you'll notice that I'm almost always, what am I using? I'm using different on here. I'm using the Lux, and I'm using Go-To EQ. There you go. So I'm lying now. I'm not actually using any distortion on this. But if I wanted to, what I could do is just come in here to Audio Unit Extensions. I could grab the 808. Now, I'd have to be subtle with this. I wouldn't want to dial it in too much. So let's start with it kind of all the way down, and we'll play this. All the complications of my life, all the times when I couldn't reach a knife in my back to the days when I was a little kid. Is that on the right track? Is that coming through? No, I was on completely the wrong track. I was wondering what was going on there and why that didn't sound right. Yeah, so I did have overdrive on these vocals. There you go. So I normally have overdrive. So you can see I've got quite a bit of drive on these vocals already. But if we edit this and we just get rid of that redundant effect EQ and we add it in here, you were probably all screaming at me saying, Pete, you're putting it on the wrong track. Now I don't know what track I did put it on, and I'm going to go back and find that there's something really weird. So we'll get the 808 on there. And now if we turn off the overdrive and then we add the 808, we can play around with this and... Always worry about the things I never did. Always thinking about the next big problem, even when it's someone else that's on the hook me in, line and sinker. Ever wonder what it's like to be an overthinker, tinker with all my little thoughts? Maybe it was just the way that I was taught to just... So yeah, you get that real almost bullhorn kind of sound going through there with that. So it's probably not a subtle effect, but if you were doing like a Rage Against the Machine cover or something, and you wanted to get that Zach vocal going through, then maybe adding something like that would be a good thing. Let's delete that one off there before I get confused. And goodness knows where I added that other track. I'll find it next time I come to use this song as a demo. But yeah, use these on experiment. Turn them up to 11. See what they do. Have fun with it, because you'll never know until you try it. That's my opinion anyway. Yes, let's pile the Nembrinis. Absolutely. Andreas Nembrini does a great job. Provides a lot for free. So I know there's a lot of talk between, a lot of folks want things for free. Like whenever I do a video where I'm like, it's a free plugin, twice as many people watch the video as, hey, it's a $10 plugin. But the thing is, these developers, they actually kind of need to make money because they put a lot of effort and a lot of work into getting these done. So I think Nembrini have got the balance right, which is that they have some plugins like this that they put out there for free, and then they've got a bunch of plugins that they charge for. And yeah, if you dig, if you try the free stuff and you like it, then go and check out a couple of the paid plugins and support the people who support the mobile music creating community. That's my advice to you. Alrighty, we don't need the key. Well, break in. Yes, now I've got Rage Against the Machine songs in my head. Alrighty, that is going to do it. But yeah, do play around with this and experiment with it. There is a link. In fact, there's not, but I'll put a link as soon as I finish this video live. And if you're watching on the replay, there'll be a link down in the description. Or just head on over to your app store and search Nembrini 808 and you will find it. Download it, install it, love it, do it. And as I mentioned before, do join Jade Star in 30 minutes time if you're watching live for her how-to app where she'll be showcasing her new Dread Circus single. I've had a preview and a sneak peek. It is ridiculous, like super ridiculous. So get on over there and check that one out. Please, if you've got any other questions or comments, do leave them in the comments below if you're watching on the replay. Got some value out of this one. Had fun watching Pete play like a high school band on the screen there. Then yeah, hit the like button. That helps me out here. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you can go ahead and do that as well. Everything else you need to know is over at studiolivetoday.com, where you can check out all of the things I have, the gear guide, Patreon, all of those things. Thank you everyone for being here. Today more than ever, please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and keep creating. Take care.